I now recognize Dr. Murphy of North Carolina for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. You know, I've been in Congress a little over 5 years now, and I feel it's kind of like a basketball game, where the guy who does the wrong thing first, and then the other maybe he fouls one player first, and the second player who responded, it's everybody puts the attention to the response rather than the primary problem to begin with. And that's what it seems to be. We always scream at what the reaction is rather than the real problem itself. Nobody is saying that our election system is perfect. Nobody's saying that. We live in a human society. We have human frailty. We're not saying that. Mistakes happen. And that's why we have reform. You know, it's very interesting. We're talking about the North Carolina Board of Elections and how Ms. Helding, you know, really got screwed by them. Absolutely. But I think I just want to point out that the North Carolina Board of Elections has been run by Democrats for many, many years. And I'm happy to say that now the legislature has taken control of the North Carolina Board of Elections and turned it over to Republican control. And now the Republicans have begun the registration repair project to ensure that all eligible voters have accurate and complete information on file. Imagine that. We're actually running a system that works. The State Board of Elections has publicly announced that the project will not result in the removal of any eligible voters. So we had a horribly run Democratic system that Ms. Hellig had the terrible experience of having to deal with, and now the adults have come into the room and said, we're actually going to run something right. That's great. You know, look, we sat right here, y'all sat at that table when the Michigan Secretary of State sat there, and she would not allow the removal of over 22,000 dead people. How are we supposed to respond to that, Republican or Democrat? How do you respond to that? That's fraud, period, point blank, and that's our job, is to ensure that those people are taken off the rolls. We don't want any eligible voter removed. The experience that you went through, ma'am, was horrible. I'm sorry for that on that part of North Carolina. But, you know, damn, if we want our elections to be secure, it's okay that we look at this stuff. It's much worse if we have somebody voting who shouldn't than somebody, sadly enough, had to go through what you did. So I apologize for that. There's a new sheriff in town in North Carolina, and hopefully they'll run it in a system that actually works, rather than having 200,000 people put on a roll where their voting rights are questioned. I'll turn back. Mr. Reamer, just a couple questions. The federal requirements for notifying voters before removing them from voter rolls, can you expand on those a little bit?
Absolutely. So once an election official has reason to believe that a voter may have moved, for example, they are required to mail what's known as a confirmation mailing. And that is sent to the address where the voter is registered, forwardable. So if the voter has moved somewhere else, in theory, that piece of mail is supposed to go to their new address. So that is how the process works. When that mail does not come back to the election official, or the voter does not return it saying, I've moved, cancel me from the voter rolls, which is what happens only 30% of the time. The voters only request cancellation about 30% of the time, or notify the election official that they're still there and not to remove them. And what happens is those election officials, unless they hear from the voter, they have to wait for up to 4 years until they can remove that individual from the voter rolls.
Yes, I mean, it just, you know, I had a former colleague, anesthesiologist, who we were in the operating room talking one day, and he was livid because he went to vote and someone had voted in his place. So to say this stuff doesn't occur is absolutely wrong. And then I've had patients who said, yes, I got mailed 5 ballots to my house. But so to want to clean up this system is not wrong. It's not wrong. It is absolutely the right thing to do. I'm baffled that people want to fight that. One other question. Actually, Mr. Adams, thanks for being here today. What is the best practice for states to share voter identification roll with each other? And I will say this real quickly, and maybe my time might run out. Apologize. You know, Social Security has a great pension. If somebody dies, you get a notice pretty damn quick that you're not getting your benefits. Why can't we tie that to voter rolls? Wouldn't that be an interesting concept? But anyway, I'll let you answer your question.
The best is commercial data. Commissioner Don Palmer at the AC has advocated for this. I'm on the board of advisors of the Election Assistance Commission. We have advocated at Public Interest Legal Foundation, use Experian. Commercial data is the most accurate. There's a cost, but we can figure this out.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Madam Chairman. I yield back.